Friedrich Nietzsche was a German philosopher whose most famous quote is, "Women was God's second mistake." But what was God's first mistake? Inventing an Earth in which The Nut Job was a socially acceptable movie to produce.
Outback Steakhouse.
I don't hate a lot of movies. In general, I don't hate a lot of things. I like hating on things, but I don't necessarily hate many things. However, I can say with confidence I hate The Nut Job. I hate this piece of shit movie, and I think that it was invented just to piss me off. So, just to let you know my motive. For Father's Day, I was forced to go to my uncle's house, and I don't like interacting with my family, so I decided to just plop myself down on the couch, and I was planning on watching Cartoon Network like a normal person, but I could not find the goddamn Cartoon Network channel. So I just was flipping through the channels, trying to find something to watch. As my little cousin comes over, we're bonding, we're trying to find something to watch, and oh! I see The Nut Job. I have seen The Nut Job before. I watched it in theaters when it came out. I went and saw it with my dad. I did not remember a single thing from actually watching it, but I remember I didn't hate it upon watching it for the second time because I was like, oh my god, I think I remember liking this movie. Let's watch this movie. No! So I'm sitting down with my cousin and we're watching this goddamn movie and I just am flabbergasted. I can't imagine any sort of group of producers producing this movie and thinking that this is just okay. You can't throw Gangnam Style in the middle of a movie made 2 years after Gangnam Style was even relevant and think that you can get away with that. Hence why I'm making this whole ass video on why I hate The Nut Job when literally nothing I've ever produced in my content has ever hinted towards me doing a movie review or anything of the sorts. Also, usually my videos are me talking as I'm doing gameplay, but I just could not do that. I tried that and I just couldn't. So here's me playing on an off-brand, MCC server. Look, Hypixel was down. I did the... Shut up, okay? So here's the thing. I watched The Nut Job with my cousin. So immediately after I go home, I'm still in a state of shock. But I decide that I'm going to rewatch The Nut Job and I'm going to do a play-by-play of it so that you guys can just get a rundown of everything that happens in the movie and I can explain why I hate every single frame of that godforsaken movie. I sat down to go watch it so that I could write down my thoughts about everything that happens, and it was so awful. I could not comprehend doing a play-by-play past the 20-minute mark. I was 20 minutes in, and here are the notes that I wrote down. I wrote down notes. I wrote down 3 pages of notes on why I hate this movie. So here were the notes 20 minutes in. Surly kicks a pigeon and destroys its home. Mouse screams twice. Surly refers to himself as Daddy.
Oh, come to Daddy.
Girl Scout gets nuts shoved in her face. Surly leaves Andy and Grayson on a flaming nut cart. It's awful. He's already committed like 12 crimes 20 minutes into the movie and I've already deemed him an unredeemable character. He's awful. I hate this motherfucker. The plot is so fucking boring. Even if I wanted to really sit through this and do a play-by-play, I couldn't because it would be so bland. So just to give you like a really brief rundown, there's a nut heist going on in the squirrel community and there's a money heist going in the human community and they're kind of intertwining, but neither of them are interesting. And this brings me to point number 1, because instead of doing a play-by-play, I guess I'm gonna have to do this categorize. The categories are boring, unfunny, lazy naming, unlikable characters, Gangnam Style, and Surly's redemption. Starting off at boring! This plot is so fucking boring. I know how movie reviews work. You generally have to watch the movie like 3 times. I could not even sit through this once. It was so terrible. And the worst part about this movie is like it's not even the type of movie that's so bad it's good. Like you can't even laugh at how bad it is because it's not funny. A human heist and a squirrel heist plot, it could have been interesting. It had potential had they given any characters any depth or made any character likable. They made the one likable character voiced by Katherine Heigl. I can't stand for this. The whole plot is just the squirrel heist. They don't even focus on the human heist except for this one part with Blondie's like, you said you would never rob another bank. And he's like, this is my last bank that I'm robbing. It's bland, but they could have actually had a plot there. But they never elaborate on it. She's like, oh my god, I love you. And he's like, oh my god, I love you too. And I don't do bank robberies anymore. And she's like, okay, but I just caught you doing a bank robbery. And then he's like, yeah, well, I'm not gonna do it anymore after this. And it's like, okay, there's potential there, but that's all they have. They don't even spend time focusing on why they're in love or why this is such a big feud between them. And before you're like, Skipper, You are asking for way too much lore and backstory on a children's movie like The Nut Job. No, I'm not! They had like a million companies working on this, and none of them could give any character any depth. Children's movies don't have to be bad. I'm a child. This is my demographic, even though children's movie isn't even a genre, and this is listed under comedy, which is just laughable on its own. But this movie is just so boring. Number 2! It's not funny! It's not funny! This whole movie is just burp jokes, fart jokes, butt jokes, and nut puns. And also a big running joke in this movie is the fact that Mole is handicapped and blind. Haha, so funny. I love making fun of the handicapped! There are these 2 groundhogs. Their names are like Jimmy and Johnny or some shit, and all they do is burp and fart.
How about this one?
All they do is burp and fart, and I don't get it. It's not funny. I'm not even one of those people that thinks that they're above burp and fart jokes. Burp and fart jokes can be funny, but not in this movie. Not when it's clear that you only put it in so that a 3-year-old would laugh at it. But guess what? 3-year-old comedy isn't a genre. Comedy is. Any licensed comedians like me are allowed to tear it apart for its lack of comedy, so I'm going to. This movie is unfunny and I hate it. That's pretty much the bulk of it. It's just burp and fart jokes, and I can't stand it. Next category. What does lazy naming mean? Oh, I'll tell you. Number 1, our main character's name is Sultry. His name is literally an adjective for how he acts. The park that they live in is called The Park. The nut store that Surly and Buddy discover is called The Nut Store. The main villain is a raccoon, and guess what his name is? His name is Raccoon! His buddy's name is literally Buddy. This guy who cracks his knuckles is named Knuckles. Who was paid for this? Don't even get me started on the name of the movie. The Nut Job? That would make sense if it was a squirrel who was, I don't know, like mentally insane, because that's what the term nut job means. Is the nut job supposed to be a reference to the fact that they do a heist? So like the nut heist is the nut job? I don't get it! The amount of puns in this movie is just so awful. There are movies that dedicate the whole like spiel to puns. For example, the Bee Movie. If you make the whole running joke of a movie to be based on puns, you can get away with it. You just have to go really hard at it and actually make the puns clever. None of the puns in The Nut Job are clever at all. Take the literal last line of the movie. It's just, we're all a little nuts. That's not funny! I don't even think a child would find this funny, and that's who this movie's for. Anyways, I went a little in depth on the naming, but next category. I am not exaggerating when I say there is not a single likable character in this movie franchise. So first of all, our main character, Surly. He's the squirrel, and he's mean and selfish, and that's his personality. I'm not lying when I tell you that's the bulk of it. But not only is he just shitty, he's also a criminal. He's abusive, he's an arsonist, he's an asshole, he farts a lot. I know that farts a lot probably shouldn't be in the same category as arsonist, but in this movie, they're pretty much on the same level of, oh my god, I hate you for that. Surly sucks. He's the main character, and this is a kid's movie, so obviously he's gonna have his redemption arc, right? Yes, he does, and that's its own separate category that I'm gonna get into later. But 20 minutes into the movie, he's already abusive and arsonist and asshole and farts a lot. I've already deemed him unredeemable. You can't redeem this character. Even like 3/4 into the movie, he's a terrible person. You can do a redemption arc that late. But The Nut Job, I knew was not going to be able to, so I felt confident halfway through the movie saying, yeah, there's literally nothing this character could do to make me love him. Main character already sucks, but there's gotta be some great backing characters, right? No! His best friend's name is Buddy, and Buddy is this cute little mouse. He doesn't do anything wrong, always by Surly's side, even though Surly is literally abusive towards him. But then Buddy totally fucks up me liking him when there's this one part where he sees dynamite and then throws it on the ground. But you know, it's not Buddy's fault. He doesn't know what dynamite is. But he clearly does! Because in another scene, he sees the dynamite and then freaks out! So did you know what dynamite was and just throw it on the ground, or did you not? Did you only figure out what dynamite was once you saw it sparking? I don't understand it, Buddy. Also, the whole time, Buddy is not talking because that's his thing. He can't talk. But when Surly does this little fake death scene in the end of the movie or whatever, he talks! Buddy fucking talks! At one point he can't talk, at one point he does, at one point he doesn't know what dynamite is, another point he does. What I'm seeing here is a fake. I think Buddy is faking it. I think that this whole harmless, friendly little la 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 Buddy was all an act. I think that he's the mastermind behind all this. I think that he is, I don't know, he's definitely shady. Then you've got Andy, who's just doing her best, like the girl boss she is. I hate that I just said that, and I think I'm gonna go throw up now. Andy does everything for the park. She gets them their food. She does anything Raccoon wants her to do. She's courageous, and she likes Surly. Why is she a Surly apologist? Why is she always on Surly's side when Surly has done nothing to give her reason to being on Surly's side? Surly has done nothing but screw over everybody that's tried to help him, and she still likes him in the end, and in the beginning, and in the middle, and at every point! I don't think there's a point where she doesn't like Surly. Then you've got the human characters, and like I said, they gave the human characters absolutely no depth or brains, so I'm not gonna go into the humans. All you have to know is that they're literally idiots. Their whole plan was to dynamite their way through a bank and a bank vault without the people inside of the bank knowing. That's all I gotta say about the characters. The characters are trash. Yes. This is its own category. Why is this its own category? Because it was that big of a sin. This movie is genuinely a sin. It's one of the 8 deadly ones. Oh, but there's 7 deadly sins. No. You wanna know what the 8 deadly sins are? Pride, greed, wrath, envy, lust, gluttony, sloth, and the Gangnam Style scenes in the nut job. Oh, but did you just say scenes plural? Yes! They put Gangnam Style twice! Buddy and Surly are looking for food, and then they find a nut shop, and they're so excited that they start dancing to Gangnam Style. I first saw that and I was like, okay, that just took 5 years off my lifespan. But whatever. I mean, at least it's like it was probably a topical thing. I mean, this movie was made a really long time ago. Maybe it was just a topical joke that's not really funny anymore. No! Gangnam Style was released in 2012. The Nut Job was produced in 2014. 2 years after relevancy for Gangnam Style. And not only was there one scene of them dancing to it in front of the nut shop, but the entire credits! The whole credit scene is an animated Gangnam Style dance sequence. And I can't let them get away with that! Can't keep getting away with that! Why did that have to exist? I don't know. Why am I so angry about it? I also don't really know. I've already established to you guys, I hate Surly, and Surly is unredeemable. There's no way that with all the crimes he's committed, that he could have a redemption arc. So, his big redemption moment, and the moment that everybody realizes that he's really a good guy, is because he sacrifices himself. He's on this, like, log with the evil raccoon, and the raccoon's dragging him down on one side, and then Andy and the rest of the gang of the park is like,
"Hold on, Surly, we're gonna get you!"
Raccoon's like,
"No, he's going down with me!"
and Surly's like,
"I'm gonna let go so that I can sacrifice both of us."
why? Why did he sacrifice himself? Why? Andy literally says, we can pull you both up. And then once they get both of them up, they could just kick Raccoon down the waterfall. Why didn't they have half of the lineup pulling up Surly? Why didn't they have the other half of the lineup making sure that Raccoon wasn't pulled up? I feel like nobody in this movie has any brains, including the writers. Or why didn't they steal one of the dynamite pieces and then just dynamite Raccoon? So basically Surly's whole thing is he sacrifices himself and then he ends up at the bottom of the waterfall and he like dies, kind of. He's like dead on the floor and we don't ever see Raccoon again. But Surly's little almost death would have been sad if I kind of didn't already deem him unredeemable within the first half of the movie. I was relieved when he died. The park should have been relieved when he died. He's been a selfish asshole this whole time. He literally has not done anything good. But then he dies and then just wakes up. Like he just pops back to life. How was he not dead? How did Raccoon die and he didn't die? After throwing himself off this cliff for no reason and then somehow springing back to life, he just decides that he wants to work together for the park? Why? Why? Why?
Risked your life to save this park. Everyone has to know.
No.
This park will always honor your deal, Surly.
No, they won't. You literally agreed to not telling the park the deed that he did. This movie ends by just telling you the lessons that you should have learned.
Life's really there for the sharing. There's a little hero in all of us. We're all a little nuts.
Why? Why did you feel the need to include this? If at the end of a movie or story you have to tell us the lesson we should have learned, then you clearly didn't convey it correctly. What if at the end of Romeo and Juliet, Romeo just popped back up into aliveness and was like, and that's why love is an overpowering force. Like, yeah, that's the whole fucking point. We learned that already. But that's all. Those were my 6 categories of why I hate The Nut Job. I hope that you hate this movie as much as I do. Oh! I almost forgot to mention. There's a sequel. There is a sequel. I don't think you heard me right. There's a sequel! And I haven't watched that yet, so if you like this video and you want me to watch the second one, then I might. I might not if I don't feel like it, and if nobody likes this video. Yeah, that's all. I don't have any, like, closing statements that I do at the end of my videos, so later!